So James, what is the one thing that truly maximises the value of someone's home when they go to sell their property?
So for me, this isn't my territory per se. So I'm not an agent. However, I wanted to answer this question as authentically as I possibly could. So I'm going to use my own experience on selling a property and having bought two in the past is to maybe what I felt could have been better in terms of selling mine, what would have helped in selling it, and also what maybe would have potentially persuaded me to at least put an offer in on some properties when I was house hunting. I know house purchases are typically done on emotion. However, for me, one of the standout things from my own personal experience, apart from the obvious, i.e., making your house look presentable, inside and outside, decluttering, all of the sort of pretty basic stuff, is finding a good estate agent for me personally. At the very least, find an estate agent who has, when they're showing your home, they're sending someone who's already been to your home. The amount of times I was house hunting, admittedly in 2020, so the market was crazy busy, but we were turning up to properties. Number one, the agents were always late, which is a huge bugbearer for me, a huge bugbearer. So I'm already on the back foot before I even walking through this property because they're late. Number two, they've not been to property before. Number three, they can't answer basic questions about that property. They can't even provide me with an EPC certificate. They can't give me any details about the property at all. So at the very least, find an agent who's going to put the time and effort in to do their homework on your property when they're showing people around it. The bare essentials as far as I'm concerned, but unfortunately, it seems to be a bit of a practice amongst some estate agents that doesn't seem to be the bare essentials.
How did that make you feel as a buyer?
So for me personally, I'm a big I'm all about good customer service, regardless of what industry you're in. Anything from buying my morning coffee to I don't know, just any interaction of anything that we do. Good customer service, the reason why it frustrates me so much is because A, it's not difficult, and B, it's free, right? Anyone who owns a business out there or even works in a business, the main standout thing which will get people coming back through your door and get people referring your business to other people is the level of service that you provide. And that main factor is free. It doesn't cost you anything as a business to simply provide a good level of customer service. So for me, it's a big thing. So if I turn up to a property, which, okay, we've only seen the pictures of it, but we like it. We like it enough to book a viewing and we're quite serious about it. We're in a proceedable fashion. We've got our agreement in principle. I get there, the agent's late, and then we walk through there, and this is the first time they walk through the house on their own, and their attitude is, well, sorry, I've not been here. Let me just have a quick look for the folder. You go and have a walk around, and then we'll have a chat in the kitchen. I've turned off already. I'm not interested. I've switched off. I just as well turn around and walk out the door. I've got no desire whatsoever. It could be my dream home within reason, and it would frustrate the hell out of me.
So you saying then the agent actually, by doing a poor job in representing their seller, even if it's a dream property, out of principle, you're like, no, fuck this, I'm not doing it.
Within reason, because again, we buy homes on emotion. We all know that, right? And we all like to think that, there's the one. But as with relationships, there's not always just the one. There's 8 billion people on the planet. You can have that level of connection with a couple of people throughout your life. And I feel like you're gonna have that same feeling with a handful of properties throughout your life, and even within the area that you're looking for, right? So it's not always just about the one. So yes, I am saying that there's a possibility that I would walk into property that I actually really like. And because the level of service I've had is they're not interested and they don't care, well, I'll mirror that. Okay, well, I'm not interested, I don't care then. I'm not interested. Also, something I encountered was estate agents not marketing the property correctly. So what I mean by that, if you've had an extension downstairs and you've opened up your kitchen and your dining room, your sitting room, you've got a big open plan downstairs space, which now means that your old little living room is an office or a snug room, don't advertise it as a bedroom. It's not a bedroom. You don't have a 4 bedroom house now. It's not a 4 bedroom house. Don't tell me it's a 4 bedroom house and I'm in the market for 4 bedroom house. Then I turn up at your property and actually it's a 3 bedroom house and you've got an office downstairs. Because again, straight away, you've wasted my time. And that now I don't trust you as an estate agent. I've got no respect for you as a estate agent. I don't want nothing to do with you. And I'll walk away.
Yeah, no, and I completely agree with that. That is so powerful. One of the things I always say to negotiators is before you go to the property, to show a buyer, you must have a fixtures and fittings and contents form on you. Yeah, you must
Yeah.
have. Yeah, you're not going to know every single item that's going to be on that, but you at least have the form and familiarize yourself with it. When it
Yeah,
comes to the
yeah.
actual property as well, you want to know absolutely everything about that property. And what I mean by that is that there needs to be a debrief with the seller about the things that they really, really like and the reasons why they purchased that property. But also, is there anything that they believe that's wrong with it? Yeah, is there
Yeah.
anything that you need as an agent to know before you actually start showing that property too? When it
Yeah.
comes to things like building regs, maybe for the loft, yeah, do you actually have building reg sign off? Are those stairs wide enough? And there's a lot, that's a lot. I see that a lot where the stairs aren't wide enough. Now, a buyer's not going to think to know to ask a question about the stairs.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And suddenly, when it goes down, like the surveyor comes in and then they start checking stuff and the solicitor's asking questions and they're saying, this loft you've done, because I see the building regs and there is none, that is going to
Mm.
massively scare a buyer. Suddenly
Yeah.
they're going to be thinking, oh God, what do I do now? How does this work? Can I, if I don't get building regs, does that mean it's actually a proper loft? Is it
Yeah.
not? Is it now just happens to be storage? What is it? Suddenly, the rug gets pulled from underneath their feet. So everything you've just said, absolutely. And I only know that because I was that agent, by the way, that was attending properties, showing properties to buyers. And guess what? The buyers were making complaints that I was not only showing them the wrong thing because a
Yeah.
property was advertised as a 4 bed when it really was a 3, right? But also, I wasn't listening to them. I wasn't listening to what they wanted. So they were saying, yeah, I want to go and see property A. And I was like, brilliant. When can you
Yeah.
go? And they said 10 o'clock Saturday morning. I was like, lovely. I'll take you there. And I don't know anything about the property. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm sort of cringing, looking back to that moment of thinking, Christ, you're describing me.
Yeah.
But through pain associated learning and getting to really taking the job seriously and really trying to provide a service, it meant that when I would point blank refuse to show a buyer that I couldn't qualify well enough, that didn't meet the actual property itself, if their description or when I was talking to them about their life and who they are, what they're doing, and why they want to come, it wasn't interrogation. It's just a free flowing conversation.
Yeah, of course.
If it transpired that was like this property isn't right, I'll tell the buyer, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Listen,
Yeah.
I want to show you this house, but equally, I don't want to show you this house because
Yeah.
there's some big things in there that sound like they're going to be a proper deal breaker, and I may end up wasting your time and the sellers. I'm going to tell you what they are, and if it's a deal breaker, that's fine. Then I'll show you. I'll find the perfect property for you, not just showing you to get my KPIs up. And then when I do turn up, I'm either late, I don't know anything about the property, and actually, I've not really listened to anything you've said. And so, I think
But
one of the
if you were
things,
to carry that, sorry, if you were to carry that into any other industry, like you wouldn't last 5 minutes.
yeah,
If you were selling cars and you didn't know anything about the car,
mm,
you didn't listen to any of the customer's needs as to what type of car would best suit them and their lifestyle. You advertise the car as something that it wasn't. Like you wouldn't last 5 minutes in the auto trade.
yeah,
And so it just blows my mind that it appears to be. Oh, look, I can't talk on behalf of estate agents around the country because I've only dealt with a handful, but in the handful that I've dealt with, unfortunately, it seems to be quite rife. And another thing that I've always found super interesting slash frustrating about purchasing a property is you picked up on it about understanding if there are any faults with that property and that they should be passed on to potential sellers what those faults are. You would not buy a second-hand car without it having passed a MOT recently, and they can prove that. And without them doing their own, 100 point, 200 point, safety check on the car to make sure everything's of working order, everything's going to be, working as it should be. Yeah, you can go and view a property, the estate agent not even take you around it, you take yourself around the property, and then essentially at the end of those 5 minutes you're allowed to look at a house, they ask you to put an offer in.
Yeah.
That blows my mind. How are you allowed to sell a property without it being up to building regs or without everything being done legally and correctly? There are people selling houses with extensions on there that didn't even have planning permission.
Yeah.
And if anyone found out, they'd be ripped down. And then you've bought a property thinking it's X amount of square feet and you've got this lovely 2-story extension or whatever. And then the reality is it needs to be ripped down. And,
Yeah.
it blows my mind that you can go and buy something like a car and it has to go through this rigorous testing for them to sort of be able to sell that to you as a second-hand car. Yeah, you go and purchase a property, which would be the biggest purchase for the overwhelming majority of us to ever make, and they don't need to go for these tests.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
do you
mad.
know? And listen, I absolutely agree with you on that. Now, just a quick one on that, whilst I
Yeah,
think of it, um, is because obviously you're a specialist within mortgages.
yeah.
Is the bank of mum and dad still a thing? And I'll tell you why I'm asking that
The
question in a
bank of
second.
mum and dad is the third biggest lender in the country.
Wow.
Yes, it's mind blowing. They're the
Right.
third biggest lender in the UK is the bank of mum and dad.
Holy shit. Right. So that
Yes,
leads me
crazy.
on to my next question or next statement slash question.
Yeah, yeah,
So here's the reason why estate agents listening to this right now, whether they are a junior neg, a negotiator, a senior negotiator, a valuer, a lister, a sales manager, all of the above, the reason they should be listening to you right now is because when you were going to buy your place, how many
yeah.
people had an opinion on that place that you were looking to purchase? How many people knew that you were looking to purchase a home?
What in regards to my family, you mean?
Yeah. And friends.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm super close to my parents, so they would know. I would always send them over the photos of the house that we're going to go and view. They would always know when I'm going to go and view it. I'd always have a phone call with them afterwards and to have a catch up on what we thought, whether we liked it, etc., etc. Same with my mum. My mum recently bought a property last year, and same with her. She actually wanted me to come along to a lot of the viewings with her, so I did do that. So, yeah, I mean, very integral for me personally, in terms of them knowing about properties and family and everything.
Now imagine you're going to now buy that property, right? And let's say
Mm.
you're not you. Yes, you don't know necessarily what to look for. Yeah, you look
Yeah,
into the agent to hold your hand as a buyer.
yeah,
Agent's representing the seller.
yeah,
And now the buyer goes, oh my God, I love this house or I love this flat. This is amazing. I want this. This is perfect. This is brilliant. I'm going to put an offer in. The offer's gone in. Then they're speaking. They show mum and dad. Yeah. And they say, we're going to offer on this. And mum and dad say, are you sure? Are you sure about
yeah,
that? No, I don't really know. Terry down the pub. He also has an opinion. Yeah.
yeah,
Caroline at work. She has an opinion. The property
yeah,
details, by the way, are shit. Yeah, so the pictures are rubbish. There's nothing online about the property, so friends and colleagues can't actually get that excited. So
yeah,
the buyer now is thinking, "Am I making the right decision? Am I making the right decision?" Suddenly,
yeah,
something comes up about no planning permission for that extension that you mentioned.
yeah,
Building
yeah.
regs actually haven't been signed off for the loft conversion. Mum and dad, who are now the bank of mum and dad, what are they going to say?
Wow, it's an absolute no-go. They're just not going to allow it. They're not going to give you the help you need to even make that purchase that property, even put an offer in.
Exactly. So now imagine now
Yeah,
the agent has the property correctly priced based upon the house not having planning permission for the extension, not
yeah,
having the building regs, right? It's been upfront with the buyer about absolutely everything the buyer needs to know. And the buyer now is making an informed decision about
yeah,
what they're doing.
yeah,
Why agents don't actually lead with this house is great, but you must know
yeah.
this. Yeah. And that way, then,
100%.
and if it's correctly priced, that means that buyer now has competition.
Yeah,
So the buyer now is going to make a decision based on competition, based on emotion, but they know the facts. So when mum and dad
yes,
go, "Oh, you really shouldn't buy it," no, no, no. We did say in the beginning,
Yeah.
that we knew this was coming.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, we had a discussion previously, and in all the jobs that I've had, including the one that I've had now, even more so than what I do now in terms of mortgages protection, for me, it's all about giving the client as much info as possible so they can make an informed decision. I use the term informed decision every day, all the time. I just think it's so important. It's so important, right? Because, you know, not everything is perfect, right? Not every house is perfect. Houses have their flaws. Everything in this world has its flaws. Nothing's perfect. But as long as people are aware of that and know what they're getting into and know what they're investing into and know, whether the price reflects that, so they know then later on down the line that they can maybe put some more money into it to then get it back up to the price point that maybe it should be, amongst similar properties, then that's fine. But allow the customer to make an informed decision. It shouldn't be the blind leading the blind, because it just comes across disingenuous. It comes across as dodgy. It stinks, if you ask me. It just comes across as, you know, agents represent the seller. I hear it all the time. You just said it then. But I'll go back to an analogy of a car salesman. A car salesman works for Audi, right? They work for Audi. Audi pays their paycheck, right? But you work for the customer, right? You should be coming in, doing a full needs analysis on that customer, finding out, what their emotive points are. Everyone purchases on emotion, right?
Mm.
So why is it they're looking for a car? What is it, they just extended their family. They now need a bigger car. They want room for £2 in the back. The missus wants heated seats in the front. It's just all these little things to pick up on. What's important to you? What are the non-negotiables? Okay, you work for Audi, but you should really be working for the customer.
Mm.
And I don't know whether you agree or not, but I feel it should be exactly the same with estate agents. I know you're representing the seller, but essentially you're representing the seller because they have the product. It's the buyer you should be working with,
Mm.
and building a relationship with, because they're the ones that have got the money in their pockets to purchase.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I've always said the similar sort of thing. So, for example, I remember having a pretty heated debate with a boss once, where he said, "I pay your wages."
Yeah,
Now, if I was the receptionist, if I was the maybe somebody else within the business that wasn't at the front end of sales and
yeah,
winning instructions, then absolutely he could say, "I'm paying your wages."
yeah,
But then the correct term would be, the person who gave me the instruction gave me the platform to earn a wage, and the buyer
yeah,
who's purchasing actually is paying my wage. Because when that
yeah,
when that deal goes through, so there absolutely is a duty of care to the buyer, 100%, because today's buyer is
yeah.
tomorrow's seller. And so I've always,
Exactly
yeah,
that,
so I've always worked on the
exactly that.
basis that, and even James, when I've not, I'll tell you a very quick story. Showed a lady a property, a flat in Kensal Green, and I was like, mate, she's buying this, absolutely. Before we even went there, I thought she's having this. There's no way she's
Yeah,
not purchasing this. Anyway, transpired that there were a few things that were wrong with the property that she was like, you know what, I can't get past that. I can't get past it. I was like, okay, fine. So I re-qualified her in the flat, about everything she liked, the things that she didn't like, and the things that she would like in addition to make sure.
yeah.
If I
What's
showed
already
her
there?
another flat, she would buy that imaginary one that we were now discussing.
Yeah,
I dropped her off at another estate agent's outside, and she was like, "John, what are you doing?" And I said, "Well, you've just described that flat to me. I don't have it. This agency does." "John, why would you do that?"
yeah,
"Well, when you go to sell, if you do buy this flat, who are you going to use?" She went, "You." I said, "Right, so that's exactly why I've just brought you here, because I don't have it. Another agent has it. I know they've got it, so I may as well. You're going to find out anyway, so why not? I just go and drop you off." Do you know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
And that is unfortunately, we live in a. I think it's changing in terms of
yeah,
a lot of the self-employed model is starting to work. There's lots of fantastic independents. There are some excellent corporates, but equally there are still, though, the majority of agents still work on the basis of KPIs, getting
yeah,
things done. telling people what they need to hear. There's things that
Yeah.
sound nice.
Yeah. I used to work in sales, so unfortunately I can it gives me nightmares even just hear you say KPIs, to be honest, because it was just that's all they cared about. It's all
Mm,
they cared about.
yeah,
They
totally.
weren't
Now,
interested in, and they weren't interested in just building relationships with people or even within reason the level of customer service. It was all a tick boxing exercise, and I hated it.
oh god, yeah, and it does no. So, for example, right, um, one of my colleagues, he was 21 at the time. I was a sales manager. I've employed him, and he was like, John, please tell me you've actually got business. This was, I think, back in about 2015, 16, where the market sort of was turning a little bit funny. And he was like, please, 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 just tell me that you've got business. Because he was working another agency in prime central London that wasn't doing anything at all. So he was just scratching his backside all day. And I was like, I have, but mate, I love you and you're great and I want you to work with me, but you've got to ask my qualifying questions to buyers. If you don't do it, you're going to fail, right? And
Yeah.
you just be like everybody else. He was walking, wasn't driving at the time, and was walking from viewing to viewing to viewing. And he would do 8 o'clock viewings, right? When I asked him for me, right? Or he would go and do it for himself. Because with my questions, he knew that 8 o'clock viewing, he was not wasting anyone's time. He wasn't wasting the sellers making the house really nice, wasn't wasting his own because he knew that the buyers were going to be making offers. And if they didn't make an offer on the first one, they would be buying the second one he showed them. And he was that confident because it was like he couldn't. So when it comes to KPIs, none of my guys in the office were told about KPIs. They were
Yeah.
literally told, do the right thing, even if it hurts. And if that means you have to turn somebody away because they're not right for it, and then turn them away, they will respect you and love you more. Because the
100%.
next time you call them, when you say you need to leave your office now, they won't
Yeah.
ask their boss if they can leave the office now. They will tell their boss that they need to leave the
Yes.
office now. A huge
You're
difference.
you're you're build, you're building that trust, you're building that respect.
Mm,
And what comes with that also is loyalty. So again, like you said, with your um story about dropping your lady off to another estate agents, you knew that in the long-term game, that was still the right decision
mm,
because essentially you've gained a loyalty there. You've got a respect for you for doing that, and you've gained a loyalty. So you know she's coming back to you anyway.
mm. Yeah,
And
totally.
like you said, that's got nothing to do with KPIs.
Yeah,
Um, and business isn't got anything to do with KPIs. If if you have a workforce where you think the only way to success is making sure they all hit their KPIs, you haven't got the right workforce.
yeah.
Simple as that. They do not understand their job or what makes them good at their job.
Mm. Actually, do you know
As far
what?
as I'm concerned.
That is a great question, James, right? And I forgot to ask you earlier in this podcast, but
Yeah.
why do you um, say one about if it's only KPIs, then you're in the wrong job, but
Yeah.
also service as well. Why is that so important to you?
So I came from a well, I've had a couple of different careers, but I came from a background from actually in the fitness industry. So as a personal trainer, then worked in sales, then to sales management. And previous to that, I worked for a catering company and I was a bar manager. Now, three very different industries, catering, fitness, and now into finance, but very transferable skills because it's all about talking to people, building relationships with people, and offering a good service. Now, any business where you're trying to generate sales or numbers of sales, when I worked in fitness and when I worked into sales, our single biggest lead generators were ex-customers coming back. So people who have had to leave the gym for whatever reason, and now they're now looking to rejoin a gym. And also referrals. There are two biggest lead gens, right? Referrals, word of mouth, and ex people coming back. And I feel that's the case for almost all industries. Certainly word of mouth. Going on what we said previously about how important it is having the sort of blessing of your parents and peers when purchasing a property. Word of mouth for people we respect is everything, right? We will literally do if we respect somebody, we will literally go on their recommendation almost blindly. So if we can offer a level of service where someone knows that you actually do genuinely care about the outcome for them, then they will sing from the mountaintops about how good you are, how good the gym can be, or how good you are with your mortgage advice, or how good you are at showing them properties and making sure they got their right home. They will sing that from the treetops, and that will give you your biggest lead generation. So KPIs for me only really worked in the corporate world because it was a very vague indicator, right? If you've got 1,000 people all trying to sell the same product, yes, you probably could take a step back and go, well, hang on a second, our top 5% of salesmen here are making 200% more calls than the bottom 5%. So then you could read into that data and go, well, then they all need to be making this calls, right? They all need to be making this amount of calls because that's the reason why they're selling. It's because of the volume of calls. When actually it's not the volume of calls, it's because it's the how they are on those phone calls. It's the care of the product. The reason they're making that volume of calls isn't because they're trying to tick off boxes. It's because they care about what they're doing. They're enthusiastic about what they're doing. They're passionate about what they're doing. And they care about their sellers. And they think, oh, hang on, I spoke to so and so yesterday, and this would be perfect for them. I'll give them a call. Or I spoke to X, Y, and Z the other day, and this has just come on my desk. This will be great for them. I'll give them a call. That's why they're making those calls. It's not because they're trying to tick off a tally chart. So the reason why I think KPIs is the wrong indicator is because it doesn't tell the story. You could have someone who's shit at sales make 500 phone calls a day, or you can have someone who cares about it, who's listened to their clients, who's passionate about the product, make 5 phone calls a day, and they'll get 3 sales, and one who's made 500 has done nothing.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I had a colleague, and when I was a negotiator, and I was taking everybody's down their stats, right? So I was looking at the KPIs. I was just, but not KPIs from a perspective of to bash somebody over the head with it.
Yeah, yeah,
But by the end of the year, he had done 724 viewings versus my 213, and I
yeah,
smashed him.
yeah, exactly,
So,
exactly.
and the reason I did that was for the same reason you just said then, because I
Yeah,
didn't want a boss coming to me and saying, why how he's doing 700 plus viewings and you've done
yeah,
fucking less than 300? Are you taking the
yeah,
piss? So
yeah,
so so for me, I needed to do that because I am very passionate like you about what I do, and I
yeah.
realize it's always about them, never about me, i.e. a buyer or a seller.
100%, 100%. I mean, look, you talk to anybody who's successful in any industry, from being a chef to selling properties to arranging mortgages to working in fitness to behind a bar, whatever it is. If you're passionate and you care about what you'll do, and you're more concerned about the outcome of your client, business will come to you anyway.
Mm, exactly.
Because again, it comes to the good customer service and the word of mouth. The biggest lead generator you're going to have is word of mouth, and that's why social media is huge, because social media is one big word of mouth essentially. You
Yeah,
know, you get to talk directly to thousands of people a day, um, and it's word of mouth. Even if that person watching your video isn't your client right now, if they've got a friend who's looking for a mortgage, but like, oh, and this has happened. It happens all the time. I get messages every single week from people saying, "Look, mate, I absolutely love your videos on TikTok. I really like." The information that you give and how honest and upfront you are about it. I'm not in a position to buy personally myself now, but I just want to let you know that I think you're great. I told my mates about you, blah blah blah.
yeah,
And this is from strangers, and it's incredible, and it makes doing what I'm doing worthwhile,
yeah,
a
completely.
hundred times over. But this is what I mean by it's just giving honest opinions about things. It's cutting the BS out of it. I was going to call myself the no BS mortgage advisor, funnily enough. Um, but you know the story why. The reason
Yeah.
I did is because no BS mortgage advice on TikTok spells out knobs mortgage advice. So I very quickly had to get rid of that TikTok handle.
But to talk
Um,
about your TikTok handle, James, right?
yes.
It's blowing up. Your TikTok handle is blowing up. When I checked, I think about 10 days ago, you were on 13,000 followers, and now you're on over 15,000 followers.
Yeah, actually, the start of September, so just over 2 months ago, it may have even been 2 months ago, I had 380 followers on TikTok
Wow.
just 2 months ago.
That is
Yeah,
phenomenal. And that goes,
yeah,
and I think that speaks volumes to the things that you've been saying about passion, determination,
yeah,
identity, what you stand for. And that is
yeah.
why, yeah, you definitely, I mean, I love your videos as well, mate. I'm just looking at them and thinking, holy shit. These are
Yeah,
fantastic.
quite a few have just gone crazy recently, which is great. It's been amazing. It's been absolutely
But
amazing.
that's because of the value that you're bringing. And that leads me nicely onto, with 5 minutes left of this podcast, mortgages. What
Yes.
is happening in the mortgage world right now?
Well, right now, because of obviously interest rates and the time of the year specifically, right now it is very quiet. It is very quiet. There's still business being done. Don't get me wrong, as you'll well know from selling properties, but it is certainly quiet now. It can actually be beneficial to clients that it's quiet because lenders are extremely competitive right now. So they are doing all they physically can to generate business. So their margins on interest rates are almost non-existent. And I mean that. I know Nationwide headquarters is based in Swindon, where I'm from. And I know tons of people who work in Nationwide at various levels within the business. And on a current 5-year fixed rate with Nationwide, they're pretty much their only profit margin is the 999 fee.
Wow.
They're almost they I think they make, I'm not even joking, they make £50 over a 5-year fixed rate, excluding the 999 fee.
That's brilliant.
There's there's
What
no
I mean by,
yeah, there's no margin in it. They're being super competitive.
so yeah, exactly. So brilliant from a perspective of being competitive.
Yeah,
But that's also incredible that the level of competition that is
yes.
meaning that that's where they're at.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And also they're trying to do other things now, which is make their stress testing easier, so make it obviously slightly more favorable. They're trying to lend a bit more where they can. Again, Nationwide offer a product called Helping Hand First Time Buyers, where they'll lend first time buyers as long as they meet certain criteria. 5 times, 5.5 times their income, as opposed to typically the 4.5 industry standard. However, it's almost a little bit of a pointless product with today's interest rates, because you don't want to borrow 5.5 times your income at today's interest rates, because that monthly mortgage payment will be 50% of your net income,
Wow.
and it's too much. It's
Yeah.
too much.
Yeah. So you,
So that's where it's a bit, again, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. They're trying to be competitive if possible. They're trying to do as much for the customer as possible, but ultimately, the average salary where it is, along with the current interest rates, just for a lot of people, the math ain't mathing, unfortunately. It just isn't. It just isn't. Unless you're prepared to, really make a sacrifice, or really, look at a property a lot more within your budget. Um, a lot of people would have to make serious sacrifices. Like I said, mortgage payments for a lot of people, like a third of their income, some people half of their net income. Um, so it all depends on what level of lifestyle that you want, or what level of property you want, your desire to get on the property ladder. What I say to people now is what I always say to everyone: the right time to buy is when you can afford to buy, irrespective of market conditions, right? Because market conditions we can't control. That's become more evident now than has been for a long, long time, right? We can't control market conditions. So there's no point waiting for the right time to buy. It doesn't exist. There's no such thing as the right time to buy. There's the right time for you as an individual, but there's not the right time in general for the public to buy a property, because when interest rates do go down, the market will be crazy. It'll be crazy. And that means one thing, house prices going up.
Yeah.
You know? So the market at the moment's mad. But if you're in a position to buy, it's absolutely still worth buying. It's a buyer's market at the moment. You can absolutely go in and get yourself an under offer property at the moment. Or at least you bloody should be able to. So yeah, it's a crazy one. The biz is still out there, but it's certainly quiet. And again, if this time of year doesn't help, we'll get a real good indication of how the market's doing when we get to sort of spring 2024. So spring next year. Give it sort of 3-4 months. When we get into the March onwards, that's when the market starts to come alive. In regards to interest rates, I don't think there's too much more that can be squeezed out of them. Like I just mentioned, that is super competitive already. The margins are nearly dead already. The Bank of England base rate isn't going to come down anytime soon, in my opinion. It's going to hold now at 5.25 for a long time. Yeah, we need inflation to come down a lot. The Bank of England have the confidence to lower it.